Hello, everybody. Chris Samardage, Brotherhood of Light Show, current YouTube channel. And today we've got two bands. One was formed in 1968 in San Francisco, and the other one kind of split off of this band. So let's get the show on the road here. And let me get my screen share going. Here we go, screen share, share, and then a laser pointer. Come on, baby. Laser pointer. There we go. Laser pointer. All right, here we go. So this is the opening slide. And that band is Santana. And Santana, Neal Schon's journey, 1969 to 1978. And so there's Carlos Santana. That's a mural in the Mission in San Francisco. And here is all the Journey albums that came out. And so we're going to start the show with the story of Santana back in 1967. So here we go. So we got Bill Graham here sitting in his office. And this is a poster right up here of Paul Butterfield and Cream playing at the Fillmore Auditorium back in August of 1967. So Bill is sitting there in the evening. The show has just begun. And so these guys, he looks out his window, a second story window. Now, this is the story that Bill Graham told on video. I'm quoting him. And Bill Graham never let the truth get in the way of good stories. So I don't know how true this thing is, but it's pretty cool. All right. So this guy right here, Carlos Santana, and Michael Carabella, this guy right here, these two faces, these young dudes show up, and he sees them outside his window. Somehow they've scaled the building. He says up a drain pipe, but I don't think there's any drain pipes on the Fillmore. But anyway, somehow they got up on that ledge and they made it to his window. It's probably one of the only windows with a light on the second story. And he sees her in the window. So he opens the window and he yanks these two young Latin guys in from the Mission District. And normally he would just take somebody by the scruff and throw them down the stairs. But he kind of felt something cool about these guys, that they were like gentle souls. So he says, "Oh, well, what are you doing? What are you sneaking in? Oh, we want to see Cream. We want to see Paul Butterfield. We don't have any money. We have a band. We're into music, but we're broke, So he says, he sees the passion in Carlos and goes, "Okay, well, why don't you guys, come back and show me your music, bring your records or play or whatever." And she sets up an appointment with them later on. And so as the story goes, he ends up, so this was in 67. So finally, this poster right here is July of 1968, and Santana is opening for Paul Butterfield. And so about a year later, 11 months later, he actually got Santana to play at his venue and started some form of management with them. I don't know if he was totally, like on a management contract, but he was helping them along. So then finally in December 19th and 20th, they end up headlining, and this is in 1968. They headline the Fillmore, and they record this show. And this show right here is on February 13th and 14th. But if you buy they've released a CD of this actual show, and this is what they're using on the cover, is this part of this poster for the cover. So if you see that in the CD, that's the one you can get. So then in 69, they released this album, Santana. Okay, and it's Lee Conklin is the artist that did that. He did this poster here and this one also. So he's a San Francisco poster artist. And this is the famous album cover. And so this album was released in August 30th of 1969. So now 2 years, basically 2 years later, they've got their album out, and Bill has helped them launch their career. So the song off this is Jingo, the first release hit. And so I grew up down in the San Mateo area, which is south of San Francisco. And there's a road called the El Camino Real. It goes from San Francisco to San Jose. It actually goes all the way to LA, but that's the strip. And that was like a cruiser strip where like guys in their hot rods and motorcycles, and we'd cruise up and down the strip for chicks and burgers and all that stuff, the tradition of the 60s. And you'd hear Jingo just pounding out of these cars and these 8-track stereos. Just, it was like the sound of the streets, man. And then they released Evil Ways, which was a hit. And so Jingo hit 36 on the chart. Evil Ways hit number 9, and the album hit number 4. But that was in 1969, late 69 and 70. Okay, so, but previous to this, the album was released on the 30th, but on the 15th of August, Carlos Santana played, or it was actually the 16th, the day of the 16th, they played Woodstock. And Woodstock was 300,000 people on the East Coast, and they made a movie about it. And so in 1970, the movie was released, and their featured artist on it, and they do this song, Soul Sacrifice. So they released an album. So now Santana, that got the full song on the movie and on the album. So now they had another hit off the record, Soul Sacrifice, and it was, big commercial hit. And the movie just launched their career. So they're already number 1, but now, so they come out with the next album in 1970, and it's called Abraxas. Here's the artwork for it. And here is Bill Graham on stage. He's playing a cowbell, and there's Carlos playing in the background. And there's 300,000 people at Woodstock. And I have a feeling Bill has been dosed. That's the rumor. But that's a famous picture of Bill with Carlos at the Woodstock Festival. And here is the album cover artwork for Abraxas. And here is the actual album. So Carlos goes to the Fillmore and sees Peter Green play Black Magic Woman. So he redoes it with his band with the Latin rhythm section. And this is the band playing up here at the Fillmore. And this particular version of Santana's band, the original band, which I'm just going to go over the names really quick. So we got Michael Shrivo on drums, Michael Carabello on congos and background vocals. We got Chapito on timbales. We got Greg Raleigh on keyboard and vocals, and then Dave Brown on bass, and then Carlos Santana on guitar and background vocals. So there he is. This was taken at the Fillmore East by Amy Lee Rothschild, this sequence here of Carlos playing the Les Paul. And so Black Magic Woman is the big hit off. All the songs are huge on Abraxas. And so Abraxas hit in 1970, hits number 1. So they have 2 number 1 album, or no, a number 4 album, number 1. So now the next move is Bill's booked him at the Fillmore. So they're playing. They played this show, the headline, play with Procol Harum, or their headline here. They're playing with the Grateful Dead at Santana at the Fillmore. And this is more Lee Conklin artwork right here, these two. And then they get to play. So they're number 1 on the, headlining these bands. I mean, they're a hit band. So this is the final shows at the Fillmore, which is July in 1971. And there is Santana right here. It's hard to read, but they are headlining the final show and the final set at the Fillmore. And here is the poster. They made a movie. And once again, Santana is the headliner on the poster for the Fillmore movie that Bill produced. So they're getting a lot of exposure. And this is the album cover for Santana 3, which is a light show from Heavy Water from the Fillmore. And we're going to go to the next slide, which is, so what happens in 70 is when they're riding high on Abraxas is they find this guy, Neal Schon. He's a 17-year-old guitar player out of San Mateo. And when growing up down in San Mateo, like I was saying earlier, they ended up, everybody's like Neal Schon from Aragon. This guy's the best guitar player in the peninsula. So he goes over and plays at Berkeley Community Theater with Derek and the Dominoes, and Eric Clapton asked him, he get to sit in with him and asked him if he wanted to go on tour, but he was only 17. He couldn't go on tour. He was too young. So now he was asked by John Lee Hooker, Elvin Bishop, and Santana to join. So he decides to join Santana Band, and he helps write this album and plays dual guitar with Santana on it, and he's like a fusion jazz rock guitar player. I mean, he's just, plus he can play the blues and all that stuff, but he is just really great. And he just compliments Carlos. So this is a picture from the interior of the record. And so Santana 3, they recorded at this last show at the Fillmore that I just showed. So, and they had Tower of Power horns. So it's half of the album is live, the other half studio. And then there's also a Sony signature disc that's out. So you get the Santana 3, and then you get the full concert at the Fillmore, and it's recorded really great. And I actually loaned my copy of it to Neal's son, Miles. Never got it back because he moved to LA and I moved to Hawaii, but it's all good, man. He's a great guitar player also. Anyway, so the next move for Santana is he decides to get rid of some of these band members and bring in a bunch of other musicians. And he kind of does this jazz rock sort of fusion album, and it's called Caravanserai. So it's not really a Santana album. It's Santana Caravanserai. It's different than those other. It's kind of a whole group of musicians. Now, Neal Schon still there. Greg Raleigh's still there. Michael Shrivo, the drummer, still there, but he brings in a lot of other guys. And this has this soaring kind of sustained notes that Carlos plays. And so you've got Neal and you've got Carlos off Santana 3 and off Caravan, just playing off each other. I mean, two of my favorite Santana albums are those two records. I just love them. I love Caravanserai. It's really great. There's not a lot of vocals. It's very instrumental. It's very jazz rock-ish, but it's really good. It's really good. Beautiful record. So about this time, when Santana 3 comes out, Carlos dumps Bill Graham as his manager, and he hires his guitar tech, head roadie, Herbie Herbert, to manage the band. Okay. So this next slide, you're going to see Carlos kind of moves back with Bill, and then Herbie's been with him for about a year in 1971, but they decide to split up, and Neal goes over and forms his own band, and he brings Greg with him, and they form a band called Journey. And Herbie is the manager, Herbie the hippie. And so this is Journey, and this is their first record, and it does absolutely nothing on the charts, unfortunately. But, they were playing at Winterland, and they would open up for bands like Santana and stuff like that. So now they come out with another 2 records after this. So we've got Journey, Look Into the Future, which is this one. And now these Journey albums have some great jazz rock instrumentals by Neal that he does, and they have songs with vocals with Greg, the singer from Santana. So, and then Journey next actually does number 41 on the charts. Is that right? Let me make sure. Oh no, Caravanserai did number 41. Yes, I'm sorry. Journey did number 85, and that was released in 1977. So they've been kind of struggling since like 74, 75 with these 3 records. And Herbie right here, his watchful eye, has now become more of a businessman. And what he ends up doing is he ends up bringing in a new lead singer. So now they have Greg on vocals, Sean on guitar, Steve Perry on vocal, and there's Herbie right there. And this is Neal back then. And they also bring in a producer, Roy Thomas Baker, and he was the guy that produced Queen, Night of the Opera, and the first 3 Queen records. So he has that quality to make this dual vocal and, very instrumental, and so they release this Journey album, And let's go to that one. And so, first of all, here's Herbie and Steve Perry. And Steve Perry's, I guess his family had a chicken ranch out in the valley, in San Fernando Valley. And somehow he found him on a tape or something, and he brought him in, and he got this producer, and they came out with these 3 Journey records. And so 1978, Infinity, and then Evolution, and then Departure. And with Steve Perry, who's just an incredible vocalist, and the production is just amazing on these records. And so with Greg and Steve singing, and then they had Ainsley Dunbar on bass, on drums, and it was just incredible. So you got these 3, and then they produced this live album. So Journey was just, doing okay. So I can go over some of the numbers. Infinity hit number 21 on the charts. Evolution hit 20, and Departure hit 8. Okay, so that was just what was going on in the Billboard charts at the time. Okay, these albums since then have all done triple platinum. That's 3 million copies each. So they've done triple platinum, which is just incredible. So Herbie did the right thing, and they had their own lighting company and their own video company, and they became a major touring band. Now we're going to go back to Santana here and Journey. So here is Carlos Santana with his album Supernatural, which is right here. Now Supernatural came out in 99, and this album was or maybe it was 2009. It came out in 2009. Excuse me. This album did 300 million records sold. I mean, it's just incredible. Santana just broke out big. And then this album, Greg left the band and Jonathan Cain came into Journey, and they did Escape, and it hit number 1. It hit number 6 in Canada, and it did triple platinum, but it also did Diamond, which is 10 million copies. So, I mean, these two artists right here, starting out with this simple band from the Mission that had to sneak into the Fillmore, has sold over 50 million records, which is just amazing. And then, okay, so meanwhile, Carlos has done a bunch of albums in between, probably 10 or 15 records, and they've all sold relatively well, but I don't want to get into every record because there's a huge catalog. But then, so they decide to put together the original Santana band for Santana 4. So here it is, Santana 4. There's the record right there. And similar album cover. And here is Neal and Carlos. And this is like 47 years later. They released Santana 4. And so we got Greg, we got Michael Carabello, we got Carlos, we got Neal, and then Michael Shrivo. And then they end up using another timbali player. But there's the original, basically the original Santana band right there. All of them from that Santana 3 with Neal, and then the other from the first 2. So it's pretty amazing. They got back together. There they are playing on stage, Carlos and Neal. So they did some touring on this record. And this record, let's see, it hit number 5, and then the album did number 2. So they must have a single, had 16 tracks on it. And I really think the record business really changed at this point, and they ended up not really able to do like with all the streaming and stuff, you just don't sell as many records. It sold 40,000 on the first week. And that's why it got number 2 in the chart. So, I mean, the album did really good, but the industry's just changed, especially with classic rock. But they did really well for a classic rock record. And here we go. So here they are playing on stage when they toured, and there's Caravella, and there is Neal, and then Shrivo on drums. I don't know who this guy is. He's from Santana. There's Carlos, and there's Greg on the Hammond B. So there they are playing live, and they got obviously the album cover up on the video wall, and the Santana 4. It made a really good go of it. So anyway, we're going to go back to here, and so yeah, it's just really amazing that these two bands were able to just rise above and become some of the greatest rock bands in the history of America. At any rate, I hope you guys enjoy the show. I'm going to go back to sign off and stop screen share. There I am. So anyway, these guys mean a lot. I worked a lot with Herbie and Nocturne with my light show, and I did some stuff with Abraxas, which was a branch off band that they did with the original Santana guys, except Carlos wasn't in it. And so, and I know Neal and Herbie and all these guys really well. So it's pretty cool. This, close to home for me, but just fantastic musicians, great work they've done over the years. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. So I'm keeping it down to 22 minutes here. So I'm going to sign off. And so thanks a lot, everybody. And subscribe if you feel like supporting the channel. I'm always looking for subscriptions. So thanks a lot, everybody. See ya.